is sick. No doubt about it.
The opinions expressed on the Bob Grant program do not necessarily reflect those of WABC Radio or its management. And now, here's Bob Grant.
Let's be heard. Good afternoon, everyone. The telephone lines are open. The number to call in New Jersey, 489 WABC. From everywhere else, 563 WABC, in a program dedicated to the free and open exchange of ideas and of opinions, in the belief that as American citizens, you have the right to hear and to be heard. And what is on your mind this afternoon, huh? There is so much to talk about that maybe we'll expand the program from 3 to 6 hours for today. Oh, no, that'll be the day. Where do we go first? First of all, let's not talk about what the president has said about needing new revenues. Let's talk rather about the hypocritical reaction to what he has said. First of all, let me chastise the New York Post. They have a front-page editorial. Now, actually, they claim it's front-page news report, but it's editorializing. Read my lips, I lied. Bush breaks campaign vow, says he must hike taxes. Is that really what he said? Not quite. But what is so curious about all this is we have Mario Cuomo, who we all know, Il Supremo, is running for president, 1992. We all know that he's going to double park in Albany while he gets things ready to run for president, turn things over to Stanley Lundeen. He says he supports the tax hike. It's a good move. Well, of course, he's a liberal Democrat, a New Dealer, unreconstructed, quasi-socialist. And therefore, since he wants to transfer wealth from the producers to the leeches, he would think it's a good move. That's consistent for him. And the interesting comment of Mike Dukakis, who for a long time told us he lost the election because of the Willie Horton political advertisement. Now he says he lost the election because he told the truth. So which is it? Is it Willie Horton? Is it that you told the truth? But anyway, he says that he told the truth, and that's why he lost, and now we're all going to be punished. Does that mean that when he had first recommended an increase in taxes, we weren't going to be punished? Is it any different being punished by Dukakis, by Bush, by whomever? I am afraid that there's an acceptance on the part of people in politics to think that you, the American people, don't mind an increase in taxes. And maybe they're inspired by virtue of the fact that Jimmy Florio is getting away with the most incredible tax increase in the history of New Jersey. What else is new? How many of you have seen the front pages of the newspapers? For example, another newspaper has front page. This is the Zodiac. It's chilling. I'll tell you why. Because if you take a good look at it, and you know who the guy is who does the weather on Channel 2 with Harry Smith and Paula Zahn, you would swear this is Mark McEwen. You would say, well, the Zodiac has got to be Mark McEwen. But we know Mark McEwen is a nice guy who his only offense is every now and then he gives a wrong weather forecast. But it looks just like Mark McEwen. If I was Mark, I'd turn myself in, make sure that I was fingerprinted and that no one would make any false accusation. The Supreme Court is at it again and coming out with two verdicts which I disagree with. Particularly the one on the quotas. that obsession with so-called minority rights continues. And where does it end? We'll talk more about that later. We'll talk about a lot of things as the afternoon unfolds, but I would like to get your reaction to the taxes, the tax situation, the read my lips, I lied front page of the New York Post. More important to me than what the Post or any other newspaper says is what you say right here on WABC, where the time is 3:14. Get to Bob, who has been waiting on the line. Good afternoon, Bob.
How are you, Bob? With regard to President Bush's change of heart.
Yes.
First of all, I must confess, as someone who voted for George Bush and would do so again today if the election were held, I don't find it surprising that he changed his mind, or at least appears to have. I think the pressure building up around him was reaching a point where he was almost confronted with no other alternative. Unfortunately, none of us like to pay taxes, and none of us want to pay more taxes. And all the public opinion surveys indicate the public feels that way, but they also respond to surveys by favoring all the programs that the tax dollars pay for. And it would appear at this point the government of every level in this country is going to be taking more and more money out of our pocketbook.
What are they going to give in return? Are we going to live worse for more? Is that what we're going to do?
Well, I think the area where the public has to be concerned, and where I'm concerned, is that you get a situation such as Florio is creating in New Jersey, where the taxes not only go up, but pledges to freeze the payroll or PR statements that get totally ignored. So the public doesn't pay more to get more, they pay more to either get the same or less in terms of services.
When Ronald Reagan took office in January of 1981, the deficit was 5% of the GNP, Gross National Product. It is 2.6% as of today. Now, I'm not pro-deficit. As a matter of fact, I believe in very frugal government. But in view of the fact that the percent of the GNP which is earmarked for the deficit has gone down, do you think this might be the wrong move at the wrong time?
Well, the question that you ask goes to the heart of the concept behind Gramm-Rudman. Gramm-Rudman targets basically are dollar values, not percentages.
Well, you see, when they passed Gramm-Rudman, they thought they would be spared from its consequences. Otherwise, they never would have passed it. And they are proving this. The Congress is proving it. One point I want to make, Bob, and I think it can't be stressed enough. This has got nothing to do with partisan politics. But the fact of the matter is we always saddle a Republican chief executive with a Democrat Congress.
I agree.
Okay, thank you very much. Paul, you're on WABC. Bob Grant here. Hello.
I'm a little nervous, Bob, so you'll have to bear with me a little. But I had to call after seeing the headline in the New York Post. It just struck me that the hypocrisy is really going to too much. First of all, the first thing I wanted to say was when the presidential election campaign was going on, there was a great cry from all of these liberal states about tremendous excesses in the budget.
Yep.
And then as soon as the election was over, everybody went broke together.
Yep.
Now I can't see why, if the president is lying, which we don't know yet, whether he really is lying, why they can't say that all of these people were lying that said they had the excesses. And number two is, and this is probably the main reason why the budget goes broke, is now we had a parade for this fellow in Manhattan, right?
And it's costing us $2.6 million.
Right. Now, what was the first thing that those fellas down at City Hall did? They ran right to the federal government and asked them for the money.
Yep.
So how the hell could they say that he lied or this or that when they want the money from the federal government? Where is the federal government supposed to get this money? And why should they give them the money?
Well, the federal government is not some foreign entity. It's not some foreign land where we are given
right.
aid. It's us. It's us. And some people,
right.
The Dave Dinkins, the Il Supremos, the charlatans, they talk as though it's some other entity, but it's us. I thank you for the call.
Okay, bye.
All right, let's say hello. Who do we have now? Paul? Do we have Paul on the line? Or do we have Linda? We have Linda? Okay. All right. Hello, Linda.
Hi, Bob.
Yes, Linda.
Bob, first of all, I want to congratulate you because you are the first talk show host that I have heard who has actually thought about what effect this is going to have on the economy if they raise taxes, which tells me you're the only one with a grasp on supply-side economics, which apparently the whole rest of the world is following, but we're going backwards in this country. I think if we raise taxes, it is going to send the wrong signal to the economy. Just today, I was out shopping in a very affluent area, and I heard people saying, well, we better spend our money now before the government gets it. So there's already a psychology that's out there, and I think we are going to be plunged into a recession. And as far as George Bush, Bob, you and I have had some disagreements before concerning moderate Republicans, but I think moderate Republicans are no different than liberal Democrats. They're just on the edge for a longer amount of time before they cave into all the interest groups.
Well, you know, the paradox is that it is the Democrats who have consistently wanted higher taxes, the Democrats who believe in big spending, and they maneuvered the president to the point that they've got him out front. Now, they can hide behind him and say, well, we're just following the president. They pushed him, and they're saying, oh, he jumped in.
Bob, I think what they did is they made a deal, you know, and I think this is going to be the first of many betrayals of things that you and I believe in. And as you yourself have said, we deserve this because we put in a Democratic Congress, and nothing is going to move in this country until we do what the Democratic Congress wants.
Yeah, listen, I went around the Rio Diner in the heart of Woodbridge, which is in the heart of Middlesex County, which is in the heart of the 6th Congressional District. And I asked people if they knew the name of their congressman. I asked about roughly 25, 26 people. One person got the name partially right. Another person got the name entirely right. The rest had no idea. And yet, that nerd, that junketeer, keeps getting reelected. Why? Because he's a Democrat.
Well, you know what happens here, Bob, where I live? This area is very conservative Republican. It gave Ronald Reagan his biggest plurality. And yet we are represented by one of the biggest liberal skunks. I'm sure he's even worse than yours, Tom Downey.
Yeah, well, Tom Downey is worse than mine, but not by much. Listen, I thank you for the call.
Bye, Bob.
On WABC, let's say hello to Roberto.
Yeah, Bob, hi. I can't understand why is it exactly that everybody's being so surprised about the supposedly promises that Bush made, and now he's retreating. You see, I don't understand why people act so surprised about this, because for years now, leaders have said, well, I promise you this, and then again, it doesn't happen, you know. I mean, people should be aware of this already. You have to vote because you have no choice. You have to elect somebody, okay? Somebody's got to lead the country, and all you have is what you got right there to work with. That's about it. You have really no big choice.
I think I understand what you're saying, Roberto, but are you saying then that you feel that back in 1988, August 18th, 1988, for example, that the president knew in his heart that he was lying? Do you think that he was intentionally telling people what they wanted to hear, or do you think at that time he really believed it and events had forced him to change?
Well, I believe he mentioned what he wanted his people to hear. I believe he said what he figured the people wanted to hear. He did not say and was not being based on what he thought he can do. That's the way I viewed it, and that's the way I feel about it. And a lot of people I know feel about it.
So then, in other words, you feel that intentionally, that he lied. In effect, you feel that he did lie.
Well, maybe he did have a sense of that was possible, that it could have been done, whatever the case might have been, that it was concerning the taxes. But then again, it didn't happen. So since it didn't happen, he's been elected already. He's up there. So I'll just have to deal with the situation from there.
All right. I appreciate your call, Roberto.
Bob.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Richard, you're on WABC with Bob Grant. Hello.
Yeah, well, like everybody else, I feel betrayed by the income tax statement that he made and the change now he's made for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're paying the highest percentage of gross national product we ever paid in taxes. And if you look at the problems over the years, it's not taxes because the government's collecting so much money in taxes. The problem is they just can't stop spending money. Now, what's going to happen? Is he going to increase our taxes and then they're going to put out $200 billion in new social spending onto the Congress? And then we'll have another $200 billion deficit? And then they'll want another tax increase?
Well, look at all the pork barrel legislation that's passed virtually every day without our noticing it. And one thing that I am really strongly against is tacking on to a bill something that's totally irrelevant. For example, we'll pass a foreign trade bill, and someone will tack on some support for farmers in North Dakota. I'm just using this as an example, as a type of far-reaching pork barrel legislation that tacks on more and more and more. Farm subsidies. We keep being told they're going to get rid of the farm subsidies, which cost us at least, get a load of this, $20 billion a year. That's minimal. $20 billion a year. Has anybody done anything about the farm subsidies? No.
Can I ask you one question?
What?
If George Bush does raise taxes, and if George Bush signs the Civil Rights Bill of 1990 with all that means, he's already said there's not going to be any offshore drilling.
Yep.
Just those three issues. Tell me something. What's the difference between Republicans and Democrats if he does those three things? What is the Republican platform going to look like next time he runs? What's the Democratic platform going to look like? And what's the difference in the two parties? If we have a guy who's going to say that we have quotas forever, that we're going to raise taxes, all the rest.
Well, you see what you are raising an excellent point. And the question in my mind is this. If decisions are made on the basis of their being correct, their being good for the greater number of people, then it's difficult to argue with those decisions. But if they're made because some pollster has said, hey, the people want this and the people want that, and let's give the people what they want, then the question is, do the people really want that? For example, take offshore drilling. You know that there's been a frenzy against offshore drilling always, but particularly since the Santa Barbara spill in 1969.
Right.
And the Exxon Valdez disaster, which happened last year.
Right.
What people forget is the Exxon Valdez was a tanker ship that ran aground. It had nothing to do with offshore drilling.
Exactly.
What people don't know is that the methodology of drilling offshore has improved immeasurably. Even the New York Times admitted that since the Santa Barbara accident of 1969.
And what does it mean for the supply of oil in this nation if they don't drill offshore?
Well, it means that we are going to be importing more from the Middle East, and we're not going ahead with liquefaction. We're not going ahead with hydrogenation. We're not going ahead with any of these alternative programs that we were promised would make us, quote, energy independent by the 1990s.
And after all the political capital that Ronald Reagan used the 8 years he was the president to try to end affirmative action and all the trouble he got into trouble with the media and blacks, George Bush is going to sign a 1990 civil rights bill and tell people that I'm against affirmative action, and the Republican Party is going to go along with this?
Well, we guys, people like you and I, we're losing. We're losing. I don't know who's winning, but we're losing. Thank you for the call.
Right.
Russell.
Bob, how you doing? Thank you. I'm sorry, I wasn't going to do that either. I'm just a little surprised at everybody that they're so surprised that Bush raised the taxes. I mean, are we that naive when they say those things that it's actually going to happen? I think that people just aren't facing the real facts of life.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, politicians have always been labeled as liars. They say one thing to get elected. Look at Reagan. Mondale got crushed. He said that he was going to raise taxes, that he was honest, and...
Well, Ronald Reagan did not raise taxes, though.
Sure he did. In 85.
Really? Show me. Where were the taxes raised in 85? My income tax went down. Yours went up?
Yes, it did.
Really? Isn't that interesting? Why did yours go up?
Well, maybe it's from being in New York, too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
On WABC, let's say hello to Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy.
Hi, Bob. A few things to say. First of all, I agree pretty much with the previous Jim who called. Just about everything he said. I don't think the president actually intentionally lied. I did vote for George Bush. I also would like to tell people who call you up and quote the headline of the New York Post, which I think sways people and makes people think in a sleazy way about certain subjects, that the New York Post is a newspaper that once carried the headline, "College Professor Bites Off Wife's Nose." So, you know, I think it's like not exactly the thing to quote as the authority on the radio.
Well, they also had a headline which went thusly. Son of Sam sleeps.
Yeah.
Did you know that Berkowitz actually sleeps? Yeah.
Yeah. I had a question for you, Bob, though, something I really don't know the answer to, and a lot of people call up and, you know, complain about taxes or whatever, and I wanted to know how our taxes for the average American compares with the taxes that people pay in other free market countries. And I'll hang up the phone and listen for your
Well, you don't have to do that. I can tell you that if you're including all of the Western European countries,
Yeah.
if you're including Japan,
Yes.
If you're including
Well, I don't know about
Sweden.
Japan, because I know Japan, you know, has a weird sort of economy. Certain
Yeah.
things are very expensive,
Well,
et cetera.
all the members of GATT, the members of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Taxes.
Yeah. Is that like the European Economic Community, basically?
Well, yes. It's,
Okay.
it's the umbrella group. They all pay more in taxes.
Uh-huh.
However, they have an entirely different structure. They have, they have socialized medicine, and that is very costly.
Uh-huh.
People talk about the Swedish welfare state, which is all-embracing, all-encompassing.
Mhm.
And yet, in Sweden, they pay anywhere from 55, are you listening? Are you
I'm
sitting
listening.
down?
I'm
55 to 65% of their total Swedish dollars go into taxes.
So I think that maybe people should sit back and take a look at how expensive big government is.
Well, the question is the waste element. I think that I keep stressing that if people are convinced that there's no waste involved, then they feel differently about it. But we know there's a lot of waste involved.
Bob, do you think George Bush will come out and say I was wrong, or explain, read my lips statement?
I think that he will, because of programs like this, because of the coverage that this is getting. I think he is sensitive to the public reaction,
Yeah.
and I do believe he will address the American people on this. Maybe he'll do it in his favorite way, which seems to be a press conference.
I guess. Well, I think, I don't know.
No, he will go to the people with this, I'm sure.
My cellular phone's breaking up. I just want to say I enjoy listening to you. I think you and George Bush are both fair men.
Well,
See you later. Goodbye.
All right. I think he's fairer than I am, but I'm smarter. It's 16 minutes before 4 o'clock. All right, Matt, you're on WABC with Bob Grant. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Grant.
Yes.
How are you? I'm a first-time caller. I want to say it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Welcome, welcome.
Okay, I just want to say, like a previous caller, I also did not vote for President Bush, but I'm also in the position of defending him for this reason. I feel the political reality of the last 8 years has shown that the Republican attempts at giving tax breaks to wealthy corporations and those in the upper income bracket, it's blown up in their face. I mean, with the money that they're saving, they're not investing in the country. They're buying foreign cars. Corporations are leaving.
Wait a minute, stop. First, you mention the Republicans, and all of a sudden you say they're buying foreign cars. Who's buying foreign cars?
Well,
Only Republicans?
No. And no, it doesn't have to be just a Republican. I'm just saying the strategy. Anybody who's wealthy, for example, you can just see the number one.
What is buying foreign cars got to do with it?
I'll say what I mean. The money is leaving the country. When you buy a car or when you invest in a corporation or when a corporation pulls out of the United States and goes to a foreign country, those revenues are leaving the country. So what I'm saying is...
Are you saying that this is all a result of our trade deficit?
No. What I mean is that I think the government has realized that in order to gain revenue, they cannot rely on the hopes that those people with extra cash, if you will invest in the United States. In other words, it seems like the money is leaving the country. You know, the number one selling car in the United States is a Honda, you know.
The trade deficit has been going down. Actually, last month was the lowest it's been in years and years and years.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying that.
Are you saying that all we have to do is establish trade barriers and forbid Americans You want Smoot-Hawley back?
No,
you want a real worldwide depression?
No, I'm not saying.
Do you not believe that the consumer has the right to get the best quality goods for the least amount of money? Isn't that the American way?
I think that's the problem. I think consumerism is one of the strongest forces of all. I mean, it can overflow political beliefs or whatever.
Overflow political beliefs. We're all consumers.
Yes,
when you go to the store, don't you have a right to shop, to make comparisons?
Absolutely. I'm not decrying the right for somebody to buy a foreign good or anything like that. I don't have a bumper sticker that says "Buy American, save 10 jobs." I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is that I think the government, in hopes of gaining more revenue, and I think rightly, I think Bush is making the right move. I mean, people have been saying, "Oh, he's a Republican. How can he do this?" And they've been criticizing him. I think he's making the right move. The government needs more revenue.
For what? What does it need more revenue for?
Well, I think for the deficit, as Bush has stated.
Well, what causes the deficit? The deficit is caused by spending more than you take in.
That's right, and that's why I think a tax increase would be good at this point.
But heaven forbid that we should talk about spending less, though.
Oh, no.
We always talk about taking in more, and you know what Congress does. And listen, let's not... We're talking about the president, understandably, and he is the focal point of our discussion.
True.
But he can't get any tax bill or any bill passed. Congress passes that. The Constitution says, quote, only Congress shall have the right to raise and levy taxes. That's right out of the United States Constitution.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think people should criticize Bush for, let's say, taking the same path as the Democratic Congress right now. You know, in other words...
All right, you've made your point. You've made your point. I thank you. Call again.
Okay, thank you.
Matt's point is, I guess you could say it, I don't want to be unfair about this, is don't criticize Bush for acting like a Democrat. Brian, you're on WABC. Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, Bob? I just want to counter something that the last caller said and then make a comment myself about George Bush's change of attitude.
Okay.
Basically, his whole thing about the Republicans over the last 8 years helped contributing to the deficit. When Reagan and the Congress enacted those tax cuts, the revenues coming in were about 10% increased over each year. But the problem was that the spending was like 12%. So, of course, we were naturally running deficits. Now, I voted for George Bush, and one of the main reasons I did was because he said he was going to stay the course of the Reagan Revolution, okay? And during the campaign amongst the Republicans, there was the bit who was really going to push that revolution forward. And Bush, of course, was the heir apparent because he's the VP. I voted for him for that. Now he turns around and he changes his whole attitude on taxes, and now he's talking about we're going to need to raise the taxes to take care of the budget problem. But the budget problem would take care of itself if they would just moderately spend at current levels, or maybe 1 or 2% a year, and enact the capital gains tax cut, which would bring about for the first 3 years increased revenues. But the problem is that I'll be willing to stake my paycheck on it. They're going to get this tax raise, and they're going to increase spending even more, and we're not going to get anywhere.
All right, I'm afraid you probably are going to be very close to being right. Thank you, Brian.
Bob.
On WABC, it's 7 minutes before 4. To our telephones, Anita. Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Anita. You're on WABC.
Right. Bob Grant, you are the greatest. We need more of you. I believe that America should come first pertaining to its problems of debt and everything else, and the handouts that Bush is giving to Hungary or Poland and all those. That has to be stopped. We pay for that ultimately. That raises taxes, and it doesn't stop.
Well, I don't know of any handouts we've given to Austria since 1955.
But not Austria. I didn't say Austria. Poland.
Well,
and they keep on wanting more, and they're promised more and more. We can't support Poland.
But what little help we've given Poland is really a drop in the bucket. Hungary, that's a drop in the bucket.
But doesn't add up?
It's the as Everett Dirksen said, the late Illinois senator. You spend $1 billion here, $1 billion there, $1 billion here, and $1 billion there. Before you know it, it really begins to add up to real money.
Right, billions are going over there to Europe. That has to stop. And there's no reason for it, because they have to learn to get on their own.
Only $3.4 billion, $5.6 billion, excuse me, went to foreign aid last year. So when you're talking about a deficit of $230 billion, Okay, let's say we eliminated all foreign aid, the $3 billion to Israel, the $2 billion to Egypt, all foreign aid. Maybe $6 billion is saved. Okay, that still leaves $224 billion in deficit. Then what? What I'm driving at, Anita, is the domestic spending is too high.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes, the people who are living off of us and not working, and they have cars and everything else, and double, what do you call it, triple tax stamp. I don't know. They get the...
and then what about the underground economy, all the people working off the books? You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to come in tomorrow and read a list of the names of people and their Social Security numbers who are working off the books.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
About 10 million people in the tri-state area just had heart attacks because they know who they are. Thank you very much, Anita.
That has to stop. And you're great.
Kevin, you're on WABC. Hello.
Hello, Bob. I think George Bush was very sincere when he said that he didn't want to raise taxes, but the Democratic Congress is forcing him to bring taxes to the table in order to discuss the budget deficit.